after news channel after news channel. Ever wonder why they report the same news? This is Wake Up America.
Brought to you by Citizen Stringer.
The media has become absolute lunacy. What makes us different? We just tell the truth. Daily headlines, politics, social issues, focusing on headlines that the mainstream media ignores. Conservative to the core and honest, sometimes to a fault. Unapologetically American. Welcome to Wake Up America with your host, Stephen Oatley.
Well, how the hell are you guys doing on this fine feathered Friday night? My face is a little rosy, and it's not because I'm heated because of the news. It's because I've been standing outside in the cold for an hour and a half because we had a Christmas parade in our town, and our streets, oh God, is my sound on? I just got a text message. No, I didn't. Something else. So I must be live. Must be all good. But we had a Christmas parade outside, so my wife and kids, we all came down. My original plan was, hey, I've got a storefront that's right on Main Street. We could sit inside in the warmth of the store and watch it. But they're giving away candy, so my kids are like, no, we got to be outside. So I stood outside for the world's longest Christmas parade. And when I say world's longest, I am literally saying that it started at 6:23 was the time the first vehicle crossed in front of our store. And I came in here about 15 minutes ago after telling my wife and kids to get the hell home because it was late and they couldn't come in here while I'm doing my show and all that stuff. And it was still going on. It has since stopped, but the road is still closed. There's no traffic, so I don't see any of the things going by. But woo-wee, I love that country. We had tractors. We got guys doing tricks on zero turns, and we had trucks and tow trucks and garbage trucks and dump trucks and fire trucks and redneck trucks and weird, rainbow-colored trucks. We had everything. It was fun. That's a Fireball Friday. It was fun, but my face is burning. You know how from the cold, when you go in from the inside or the outside to the inside, that's what my ears and everything are doing. It was fun. My kids have a lot. Someone said, Steve, remember Citizens Chat. We're waiting for you. I'm waiting for you, okay, to tell me not what to do. All right? Who you think this is? I'll open it up. I'm just kidding. I'm just playing with you. Don't cry over there, Citizens Chat. Citizen String and Watch. I'm in here. That's the chat I'll pay attention to right now. 83. Look at that. Check it out. Oh, did I not switch it over? Shit. I thought I did. Hold on. How did I not switch that over, but I switched everything else? Hold on. I guess I shut it right off. My bad. I literally kicked over everything else, but apparently I forgot to do Citizen Stringer. Hold on. Bam. Sorry about that, boys and girls over on Citizen Stringer. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to leave. Matter of fact, I'm going to start the whole show over right now because I started early anyway. It fucked me all up. Ready? I'm going to start the whole show over. Let's, literally, I'm going to start the whole show over right now.
News channel after news channel after...
There, you got a little bit of the intros. I'm not going to redo the whole thing. That's 4 minutes of fun. Anyway, so I'm going to start again. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve. I'm the host of Wake Up America, the best show that's produced by the best person ever, which is me. That's why we always have issues, because I'm producing it myself. Anyway, it's 8:01. My face is burning. I'm going to tell the parade story again because all the folks on Citizen Stringer and our 24-hour Rumble channel didn't get to see it. So my face is burning right now because I was standing outside for over an hour and a half because of the world's longest Christmas parade ever. And it was very cool and it was very awesome. And the small town love of this town was amazing. We had tractors and tractor trailers and dump trucks and redneck trucks and a gay parade truck and people walking around going, Merry Christmas! Whatever, man. If that suits you, whatever. And then what else we had? We had fire trucks. We had the entire town's fire department was here, which is funny because I'm like, shit, what if they get a fire call? The entire rescue squad there's a huge tow company here that deals with all the Interstate 81 wrecks for the 3 counties up. Big company. They had all of their equipment in this parade too, and I'm thinking to myself, what happens if there's a big wreck on the interstate? We're so screwed. We're so screwed because all the fire trucks were in here. All the cops who were called in, pretty much, I bet every single cop that's on the payroll was marking off. I took a couple of pictures because they actually have all the side streets blocked off with heavy equipment and tractors and dump trucks and street sweepers. I think they even rented some street sweepers to block the roads. They're not messing around, and there's no way anyone could get down the road with how much stuff was actually in the thing, plus cops everywhere, and you have to I walked outside for my plan is I'm right on Main Street. I'm like, we can have the kids and the wife, we can all sit here and watch from the comfort of inside. But then these awful paraders decided that they were going to give away candy to children, so we couldn't do that. We couldn't sit inside because my kids are like, no, I want to sit outside. So I was like, this is not fair for me as an adult. So I had to go outside to stand with the kids who don't behave well at all. Both of my children are grounded for the weekend. So it's going to be I'm sure my wife is having a blast right now dealing with them. And I'm sure she's going to have a blast for the remainder of the weekend because I have Patriot boxes to mail out and coffee to pack. Sorry. So she's got to deal with entertaining these kids who are grounded. So that's going to be fun. And yes, I grounded both of them, and because they ticked me off. The first one we got a call home from school. And again, this goes to what I'm going to talk about today. I am an extremely stern parent. If anyone can't figure that out by my demeanor here, I don't know what to tell you. But I'm an extremely stern parent. Speaking of stern, you know what else is stern? Spartan Armor Systems. See that transition? It was amazing. Spartan Armor Systems is a sponsor for the show. I forgot to mention them in the beginning, so I'm doing it again right now. Bada bing. Use code YEET and get 10% off your order. You'll see one of their soft plates, the concealable plates right behind me. They also have hats. That's a hat that's next to a gun that shouldn't be there. And then, obviously, we've got the burner. That's the one, where's that right there? Oh, man, that's pretty. That was a gift from one of you, Andrea. Shout out to you. You're going to get shout outs for the rest of my life, I think. My wife was like, why would some girl buy you a $900 Christmas present? I'm like, because I'm awesome. I mean, whatever. But yeah, I bought $550 worth of honey for the December mystery boxes. I got my wife some free honey. She's all happy. She's like, honey, you got me honey. I'm like, shut up. But anyway, it's been crazy. So, but I was in the car with my kid. I'm talking to my wife. The way it works when I pick him up, I pick up the kid at the middle school first, and then I go and wait in queue for like an hour and a half. Not really, about 20 minutes to pick up my little guy from the elementary school. Even though schools close at the same time, they just do it super weird, and it's really not. The supply chain of handling these children from school exit doesn't really make a lot of sense. But whatever, I'm not in control of that. So I was waiting, and I'm talking to my wife, and all of a sudden she's like, hold on, Riley School's calling me, which is my son's name. And I'm like, oh. And she's like, I'll call you back, and just hung up. And so I turned to my son, because I'm like, dude, if they're calling, that means you got in trouble. And he's like, without just me turning to him, he's like, yeah, I got in trouble. And I'm like, what happened? And he told me, and he goes, the teacher called on me to answer a problem. And I was like, what's up? And then she said, Riley? And he's like, yeah. And she said, detention. And so she called us because of that. And I completely understand. At first, I was like, well, man, these teachers are hard. And then I was asking, about it. And he's like, I was trying to be funny for the friends. And I'm like, well, you're funny grounded. Hey, hopefully that. And he's like, okay, I get it. It was wrong. And I'm like, what? He's like, no, I know it was wrong. Sorry, I was trying to be funny. I'll apologize on Monday. And I said, you're still grounded, right, for the weekend? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, see, that's how you raise a parent. You know how you don't raise a parent? Buy them a gun when they're 15 years old. I'm just saying. my wife and I were talking about that. A pistol. Like, there's a difference. Like, I told her, my wife, I'd buy. So, for anyone that doesn't know, this shooter, a lot of information came out today about this shooter, the school shooter. And I'm not saying his name. Everybody else is doing it now. All this stuff about not broadcasting the names of mass shooters went out the window with mainstream media. It doesn't matter whether it's Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. They're all scammers. And they're all just reporting this. It's all clicks to them. So they're just talking about it from a weird perspective. Like it's more important than any other story right now, which is complete and utter bullshit. And we're opening with this story because it's kind of interesting, some of the things that have happened today. Long story short, we found out some new things today because both of the parents were charged with 4 counts of I believe it was involuntary manslaughter. Both parents were charged with involuntary manslaughter, 4 counts for the 4 people who died. Now, I immediately was like, there's no way in hell this is going to stick. This is political. That you can't do this, because if you were to do this, wouldn't that apply to everybody? If you're saying the parents, through their negligence of raising a child, caused or didn't cause this, but directly led to this kid being batshit crazy and going and shooting up his school, couldn't you make the same argument about people like a kid that goes and steals a car and runs over someone, or a 16-year-old kid in Washington who opens fire on a police officer, or a 13-year-old kid in Atlanta, Georgia, who's building, ghost guns and then tries to shoot someone who robs him, or the 15-year-old that points a gun at a cop's head and luckily misses and dies as a result of that? Couldn't you go after all those parents for being shitty parents? And I know there's a lot more, because they're trying to make the argument that, this father bought a gun for a kid. Well, the gun was registered to the dad, and the dad had possession of the gun. He just didn't have it secured, and the kid took the gun. Yeah, do I think these people are shitty parents? 100%. I think they're horrible parents. Horrible parents. But and that's only knowing what we know now. I mean, for example, 2 days ago, apparently, the kid was looking up, or not 2 days ago, 2 days prior to the shooting, the kid's looking up ammo while he was in class. Teachers realized that. Teachers ended up calling the parents about it. The parents' response wasn't to be like, hey, we got to call home. You're grounded for a weekend, no TV, no nothing, like a normal parent would do. Instead, the parent says, next time don't get caught, or some shit like that. Get better at hiding so you don't get caught. What? 15-year-old kid. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And they knew. And here's the crazier part. So this kid wrote like this horrible, horrible thing on a piece of paper. I think it was the day before this mass shooting happened. He wrote down this thing, and it had a bullet, and a bullet gone through someone, and a puddle of blood, and the guy, and I think it said something like he can't control himself. Like, I can't control myself, or something like that on the piece of paper. The teacher took a picture of it and referred it to the principal. The kid had altered that image so it didn't reflect the same thing. But they called a parent-teacher conference, and this is the thing that got me, and my wife 100% agrees with me, which is very rare that she does. But this is the part that got me. The school called the parents in. And had a meeting the day of the shooting. Had a meeting with the kid and the administration. So I'm guessing, if it's like how the schools here do it, it's usually the assistant principal, some sort of other person that's like a witness for the school. My wife said if it's like really bad, they'll have a cop in there, because, all around here, there's cops in that school. There are cops assigned to that school. But it depending on what it is. And she said, definitely, if there was a threat written on a piece of paper, there would be police there. And we already know that there were no police that were even made aware of this threat, according to the sheriff, who went on Fox News and said, we didn't know about this at all, which shows a huge issue with the school. But then they gave the kid, and a lot of people, like the prosecutor was saying that the choice to have the child, this killer, stay at the school was made with the parents. No, it wasn't. The choice to have the child remaining at this school was the school's. Because if the school told the parents, you have to take him home, he's not allowed here until we have some sort of note from a shrink saying he's safe to come home, guess what? The kid has to leave. The kid would have to leave. The school didn't do that. What the school did, even though the school called that intervention saying that there was something going on, the school knew there was something going on. The school allowed the child to go back into a classroom where later on he ended up killing 4 people and injuring 7 others. The school did that. Now, the prosecutor today talked about how that was all the responsibility of the the parents, which I disagree with. I disagree. Even my wife was like, teachers are afraid to report things because of liability. Teachers are afraid to do things. But when they do it, there's no way in hell that they would allow this. She, like in her school, basically, she said if this was in her school, the administration wouldn't let it go and the teacher would have flat out quit. My wife said that if she was in a class and she saw that kind of shit and she reported it to the teacher or to the administration and they had a parent-teacher conference and then they put the kid back at school, she would walk out of school that day. And matter of fact, she said she'd make a scene to make sure everyone leaves school that day because that's not safe. And the school did that. But the prosecutor is just blaming the parents for it. And again, I'm like caught between a rock and a hard place because I don't think it's fair to charge the parent with these two parents with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for for the kid's actions because you don't do it with anybody else. You know what I mean? And that's the only reason they're doing it now, it's because it's political. You heard that in the press conference. They kept talking all the time about how it's gun violence, gun crimes, bad gun laws. That's what the prosecutor was saying. And then she'd be like, I don't want to be political, but we don't have good gun laws here. Well, that's political. Whether you like it or not, that's political. And again, just for the record, I want to make it perfectly clear. This kid deserves to, I'll be honest with you. I mean, my honest opinion of it is he should be charged as an adult. And if they have the death penalty, he should get it. People are leaving the parade and they're banging on the wall here. Not a good idea. Let me tell you, not a good idea. Don't bang on the wall. Yeah. But it's a concrete wall. How I heard that. That means they were banging it pretty hard. But yeah, it's just it's very odd, man. No death penalty. So there's no death penalty in Michigan. That's what everyone's telling. And that's too bad because this kid is going to, he'll never walk the streets again. I'm quite certain of that. Just because it was a horrific crime. He won't walk the streets. But I also don't think the parents should be, what's the right expression? Walking or breathing. I've said that before. I mean, I'm a firm believer. If you didn't do your job, that's the thing about being a parent is you have a responsibility and a job to do. You know what I mean? And it's to raise good kids. That's what it's about. It's to raise good kids, to teach them the best. And yeah, sometimes you're going to fuck up. You know what I mean? Sometimes you'll just not be there or you won't be able to do it. I didn't grow up in the best home, but I'm a great guy. I found my way of being a dad and being a husband and all that stuff literally from movies. Those were my examples on what a life is supposed to be like just because of the life that I lived as a kid. But it's a tragic scenario. I personally, I don't know. It's weird because in my brain, I'm like, you can't charge your parents with this. But in my heart, I'm like, you should charge them with more. Does that make sense? Like, it's weird. I'm like so conflicted. And I kept saying that earlier. To me, it just feels wrong. Like in my head, it feels wrong to charge the parents with this because what kind of precedent does that set? And you're not doing it for all of them. You're not doing it for all of them. If you want to do it for all of them, so be it. Do it for all of them. I am a firm believer that if you want to hold the parents accountable, and you should hold the parents accountable for the crimes their kids commit, I believe you should, because I believe a kid committing a crime is a reflection on their parents. I'm a parent, and I was a fucked up kid. And you know what? The things I did as a kid were a reflection on my parents. Does that make sense? Or the impression of where you know what I'm saying? The reason I was lashing out as a child and as a kid were because of the home life I had and the situations and conditions that I was forced to endure growing up. I firmly believe my kids will not ever be put in that situation because of who I am now. And I think that the parents that are doing these things, or for example, you steal a car, your kid steals a car. Is there any financial responsibility for it? For example, if say Joe Blow's son steals my car, am I allowed to go after that family and say, hey, listen, your douche canoe son stole my car, you owe me money or I'm going to break your legs? No, I'd probably get arrested for terroristic threats, right? Can I sue them because their kid stole my car? I don't know. Would that be, does that happen? Is there any recourse? You know what I mean? Like suing someone that lives in a 1,000 square foot home isn't going to do a lot. You're not going to net a lot. You know what I mean? That's what in this case. So my thing is I think it should be universal. If you want to go after these parents, then go after every parent. Every minor that's convicted, charge their parents with accessory to delinquency. If a kid's caught out past curfew, go and arrest the kid and arrest their parents too. And be like, you're not doing your job. You're not doing your job. You are not parenting this child to set them up for success. You want to break the cycle of violence and all the never-ending bullshit and all the people that are on welfare and all that stuff over force them to be good parents. And my wife disagrees with that as well. She doesn't think that the parents should be held accountable for their crimes. And I'm like, why? What happens when our kid right now gets in trouble at school? The school calls us. Why do they call us, and why aren't they calling the kid's cell phone, being like, "Hey, you got in trouble at school today. You're going to detention." They call us because our job as parents is to correct that behavior. That's our job as parents. So what's the difference between a kid saying, "Yeah, what?" or something like that to a teacher, like my son did today, and my son stealing a car? You know what I mean? They're drastically different, but I'm just generalizing my point here. What is the difference? Bayana Mima with 2,750 bits. Thank you. And I got a $20 super chat on YouTube as well. Thank you, NFG. But you know what I mean? What is the difference? Someone said, I disagree. Parents can raise a child very well and a child can go the wrong way. Again, it's still a reflection of the parent. I don't care how well-intentioned you are. Yes, there are kids that are fucked, okay? I'm not even pretending there aren't kids that are messed up in the head and can't function and all that stuff. But there should be some level of accountability for the crimes that are committed as a child. When that kid is 17 and he fucks up at school or he messes up at school, sorry for swearing, guess what happens? They call you. When he turns 18, he's on his own. You're still responsible for that kid. You're still responsible for that kid the entire time. And I think, and you should be if the kid commits a crime. But that's my belief. I'm old school, and I'm not, by any means. I'm an angel now, but I was one of those dumb kids. Like I could have went so many bad directions, and I was fortunate where I got the wake up call before it all went too late, and then met my wife, and then it was like fixed. But man. It's very perplexing, I think, like I said, I'm like conflicted. When I put on that press conference today, I put it on because I was like, holy shit, they charged the parents. This is awesome. They should. And then I'm playing it, and as they're saying it, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, holy, this is not a good thing. Charging the parents for this is not a good thing. Like I get if you have gun laws, where people are allowed to keep guns out of the hands of children and all that stuff, and it's a law in that state, then so be it. They violated that crime. Yeah. If you could prove that they bought the gun for the kid, okay, good, get them, lock them up. Charge them federally. But to say that they're responsible for the murder of these other kids when you're not holding someone else to the same account when they're stealing a car or when they're hitting and running or drunk driving or all these things that kids do all the time. You know what I mean? So that's where my problem is I'm like stuck in the middle of this vortex of being like, not a single one of the three should ever walk the face of the earth again, nor should we waste taxpayer dollars locking them up. But at the same time, I'm like, listen, we have this thing in America called due process. And, we talk about political persecution all the time. Can this fit into that realm? Where they're going after the parents and they're trying to make an example of the parents because of this? Has this turned into some battle against guns? Because that's what we've heard. Look at social media right now. That's what it is. It's all about gun control. It's all about locking up guns. It's all about taking handguns away from people and longer restrictions. And now maybe it's going to be background checks on people that reside in your home. What if you buy a gun because you want the safety, and the protection of a spouse who abuses you, but that spouse who abuses you is also mentally challenged, and so now they restrict your ability to get a gun because you reside with the person you're trying to buy a gun for to to buy a gun to protect yourself from. Do you understand? Like there's so many weird different variations of where this case could go in the long run, that it shouldn't be charged this way. Charge them. I mean, and here's a good example. There was one woman in Indiana. There was a woman, I think she was in Indiana or she was in New York. I don't remember. But there was a woman whose son went in, shot all the way through a school and then shot himself. I don't think he killed any students, but he definitely killed himself in the school. That parent was charged with 7 crimes. Not one of them was involuntary manslaughter. You know why? Because you can't do it. You can't do it. They charge him with, not locking the gun up because they had those laws there. Michigan doesn't have those laws, so that wasn't there. They can't do that. They can't charge them that. And then they talk about how the parents the prosecutor said too, that the parents, didn't get a mental health counseling or any of that. He after this suicide note or this horrible note he wrote. That argument doesn't hold any weight because they had the meeting with the school that day, that morning. And he started shooting around 12 o'clock, just a few hours after that. So at what point is the parent supposed to be like, well, shit, the school said my kid could stay at the school, so they must not think it's that big of a deal. So I'm going to go finish my day's worth of work and I'll call this shrink afterwards. But the prosecutor is faulting the parent for not calling the school or for calling a psychologist immediately. But yet the school allowed this kid to stay in the school. Like that's the whole thing that is really just throwing that rock. And here's another thing. If you want to go after and you want to charge the parents for this and say that they had some accountability in this and the fact that this happened because they didn't pull the kid out of school and because they didn't seek emergency mental health, services, lock them up, whatever, then you have to do the same thing for the teacher. You have to do the same thing for the administrators at the school. You have to do the same thing for anyone at the school that had any contact with this kid and decided not to do their job as mandatory reporters. This school is in violation. If you see a kid that's going to harm himself or others, you are mandated by, I don't know if it's not probably federally, but you are state mandated to report that. Reporting that doesn't mean you're just calling their parents. It means you have to report it to authorities. And by all accounts, they didn't do that here, and which is why this happened. And if you're not going and that's kind of my problem with this. If you're going to charge the parents, like, hey, listen, I'm on the fence about charging the parents because of the way you charge them. If you charge them with, like, for example, if you make a charge that says contributing to the delinquency of a minor and the sentence is the same of whatever the minor gets, I am okay with that. And I think it's fine. I have a problem with the terminology of in saying that they are responsible for those kids dying, because I don't necessarily think they could be tied. And maybe it's just for show. Maybe it's just to start this national talk, and then they'll end up dropping the charges quietly. Maybe that's what it is. But I almost don't think that, because there's been a lot of stuff today that's changed too, because all the news, Fox News, everybody, the sheriff said that the parents, fled and they're wanted by the U.S. Marshals and all this stuff. And then their attorney's like, I can't get in touch with them, according to the sheriff. But then the attorney puts out a press release, says, they're not missing. We know where they are. They're going to turn themselves in. They've always been going to turn themselves in. The sheriff is saying they're missing. The sheriff has said a lot of things that I find weird. I find odd. I would love to talk to the guy, because the sheriff said to Fox News, that the parents are wanted. The sheriff's department, who had deputies in there, the school resource officers, apparently, that they were not made aware of this note, which doesn't make any fucking sense, to be honest, because you would think, imagine, close your eyes, sit back, you hear the from water. Not really. I got the weird there. But imagine you are the administrator in school and a kid has something and it's like, oh, well, he was looking for bullets the other day. We know that. Oh, and he's got a nice little graphic here saying people are going to die and that he's not in control. The first call I'd make to, before parents or anything, would be to that sheriff's deputy. That would be the first fucking call I would make. You know it. That would be the first call. They didn't make that call. That's at least what the sheriff's saying. And then he says that they found out they were going to be charged, and then they had an arraignment scheduled for 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever time it was supposed to be. Who knows? And they didn't make it. And then Fox News, we even wrote an article on it. We have to. We're news, but everyone wrote an artitle, and we did a good job because we're like, listen. Their attorney says they're not missing. The sheriff said they are, and the U.S. Marshals are looking for them. They turned themselves in. Right before this show, they turned themselves into the police department without anything else. Their attorney represented them at the arraignment, which you're allowed to do. Do you know what I mean? If you're charged with a crime, you're going to have a warrant. I don't believe they had bench warrants for not failing to appear. I don't believe that's what their warrants were. But everyone's already doing it. They're all doing the same thing. They're pushing this agenda saying that the parents, were fleeing. I was thinking they were going to go do a Brian Laundrie or something like that. And I would be like, good riddance. Stop wasting taxpayer money. They're never going to see that kid again. They're not. That kid's never going to get out. They're not going to see him anymore. And God forbid you castrate the dude or something. Like if you want a chance at life, castrate the guy so you can't produce any other kids because you guys are not destined to be parents again. You raised a killer. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know what else I could tell you about it. But I mean, there's a lot of things. You can raise a troubled kid and the kid could turn out okay in the long run, or you can raise a troubled kid that just goes on to become even more troubled. And that's what they did, and it was because of them, that at least in part, that's why he went this way. As someone said, the parent that bought the gun should be charged ultimately. Yeah, I mean, there was weird stuff like the mom, when he got caught with and here's the thing. These parents knew that it was their kid. The second they heard there was an active shooter, they knew her kid, it was their kid. The mom, when she heard there was an active shooter at the school, she didn't text him and be like, are you okay? She texted him saying, don't do this. The dad, when he found out there was an active shooting at the school, he didn't text his son and say, are you okay? He immediately drove home to make sure his gun was still there when it wasn't. These parents knew this was going to be their kid. They knew. They didn't even question it. The mother, according to the prosecutor, didn't even text like, are you okay? There's a shooting at the school. Hide. Flip a desk. Hide. Nope. She said, don't do this. They knew this. They knew it. Someone said Fox 2 deleted the story. I saw it somewhere else, too. I saw it somewhere else. Now, April just said, Fox Detroit posted 5 minutes ago that crime police have turned themselves in, but the link to the story didn't work, and now the tweet has been deleted. All right, so maybe they're not there. CNN reports that investigators have been keeping track of school shooters' parents via cell phone pings, and at some point the cell phones were turned off, and it seems the trail went cold. Oh, so they are still gone. So the parents are still on the lam. That's the latest. April is on it. And so maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky, and the parents will disappear, like Brian Laundrie. Because why waste taxpayer money? And that's, I know I'm sitting here defending them and saying they shouldn't be charged. I'm not defending them. They're still guilty as shit and they shouldn't be breathing the same air we breathe. Okay. I'm just a practical person, if that's even the right word. And I don't think that these people should be facing charges related to the actual shooting itself. Charge him with, a gun violation. Charge him with raising a bad kid. Lock him up for life if you want. That's my opinion. But I'm someone that just believes in like the letter of the law, and I think the way they were charged right now, if they're charged and they're found guilty, it'll be always a political thing. And if they're acquitted, it'll always be a political thing, if that makes sense. Because they're going to be acquitted and people are going to say they were charged wrong. And if they're found guilty, people are going to say it's political. People are going to use it as political. They're going to use it against other parents, but only selectively. They're not going to go after the person that's, 15-year-old who steals a car and goes, or like, for what was that 15-year-old or 13-year-old in Chicago? Remember that kid running from police, turns to the cop with a gun in his hand, and the police officer had to shoot him. Police officer doesn't face any charges, but why can't that mom be arrested for allowing her gun to point? Because I can't just go point a gun at someone. That's a charge. The kid can't answer that charge anymore, but the mom is responsible. How come they don't charge that mom? You know, it's I mean, that's it. That's what I'm. That's what I think. You know, in terms of this. Yeah, I mean, why can't you charge Ford for the vehicle? Or you know, Brooks, his mom, she knew he was schizophrenic. She knew he was driving a vehicle at some point. She knew he was a dangerous sex offender. How come she didn't, like, you know, Article 7 him, or whatever it is, Article 5, or Section 21, whatever the fuck it's called, lock him up against his will? How come she didn't petition the courts to be like, my son is dangerous, get him off? No, why? There's no accountability. And again, that's different. The guy was 39 years old. But I think if the kid's under 18, the parents should be held accountable. Jointly, if not more. If a kid commits a crime, parent does the time. That's what I think. Both of them do the time, but you know what I'm saying. You know, but someone said the difference is they bought the gun for him. Again, you're missing the fucking point. You're missing the point. You're saying that they're just guilty like this so because they bought a gun. They didn't buy a gun for him to go shoot up a school. They bought a gun for him because they're fucking dumb. They didn't buy a gun so he could go shoot up a school. So if you're making the argument now that anybody who does something stupid, what about the people that buy their kid a car when they're 15 and then the kid goes to a party, gets drunk, and ends up crashing and killing 4 people that he's got for passengers in the car? Do you charge that parent? Do you charge that family, the mom and dad, for buying him a car? It's the same thing. It puts us in a very sticky situation. And I'm sorry I called you dumb, but it's like I could talk for a half an hour and people don't listen to what I'm saying. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. And you say I'm missing the point. I don't think I am. I think you are. But, anywho. Yeah, and everyone else in the chat's like, it is the same thing. You're damn right it's the same thing. You're damn right it's the same thing. Like, for example, say you bring your kid to get surgery and he ends up finding himself in an opium addiction and then he overdoses. Or your home life, you're just such a shitty parent that your kid ends up, offing himself. You should be charged for murder, right? That's the same argument you're making. You're not there because you work 2 jobs, because you have to provide for your kid, and the kid feels isolated because he's all by himself all the time and he kills himself. You are responsible for that because you consciously made a choice that was not good for that child, and so you should be accountable for that. That is what you're saying when you say that these people bought this gun for these kids, so therefore they're responsible for the murder. Do you understand? It's the same thing. They didn't, unless you can prove, and which it hasn't been proven because we would know before you, but unless they prove that they bought this gun, they planned out that he was going to go kill people, and that was the plan for this child, because I keep saying child, even though he's a killer, because he's 15 years old. Does that make sense? Like, again, just to make it clear, and I'll keep saying it all the time, the kid doesn't deserve to live anymore, nor do the parents. In my humble opinion, that's my opinion. So don't get it screwed up, but I'm looking at this from all angles. And it bleeds like politics, and that's all it is. Parents can be held accountable for a minor's actions. Again, but they're not. You can't make an example of one kid unless you want to do it to everyone. Do you know how great of a country we would live in if parents were held accountable for their kids' actions? Do you know how amazing cities like Brooklyn, cities like Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, Portland, all these places where they have gun crime and gang violence and all that shit, if the parents were held accountable for their kids, if your kid is selling drugs on the corner, you go to jail for it? Can you imagine? We would have real parenting here in America again. That's what would happen. People would start whipping their kids up and be like, oh, you think you want to go sell drugs on the side of the street? That's what would end up happening. And kids would be afraid to do that kind of stuff. It wouldn't be made popular. It would take about 20 years. Rappers would start rapping about ice cream instead of selling drugs. And then that's what would end up happening. It would fade that away. And then we would have fuck ups that happen. But there used to be a time where parents gave a shit about their kids. We used to be there. If you want to hold a parent accountable, hold all the parents accountable. That's my opinion. You can't selectively pick and choose. You can't selectively pick and choose. And I know a lot of you guys aren't getting that point, but you just have to just stop. Stop trying to argue in the chat. Stop and just pay attention to what I'm saying, because it's and I'm not right all the time, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one. Pretty sure. My nose is starting to run because I stood outside for fucking an hour and a half in the freezing cold. Still got the Florida thing. Let me find this other one. I don't know if you guys saw this that I put up on. Let me move it up here. I gotta resize this window real quick. It's too big here. Hold on for me 1 second. That's good. So I made a tweet earlier today because, well, actually, I'll have to start it the other way. So here, let me do this. Just reset it. I don't know why I'm trying to do it all fancy. All right. Bam. So I made a tweet earlier today. Now, you may have seen it, and I got to show the first tweet for you guys to understand it. So President Biden, now I'm transitioning to whole different subjects. So everyone put on your hats, your thinking caps here, because this one's crazy. President Biden put up this thing. It says progress under the Biden-Harris administration, which, again, is still saying Biden-Harris administration, weird as shit. But they're comparing last year, November, when we had all the lockdowns and stuff in place, versus this year. And then the caption of this is America's on the move again. That's what the Biden administration, President Biden, tweeted out. And then they go into the facts and said unemployment 6.7%. Again, half of the country was still locked down, mostly Democrat states and cities, because, well, the election was still going on in November. They did take that down a little bit later, and then, in December, all the lockdowns started easing. You had 0% of people that were Americans fully vaccinated, which we know. And it's kind of funny, too, because Jen Psaki today in that White House press conference, she was arguing about this number, saying it's not 30%. Well, okay, it's 29%. And that number is probably incorrect, too, because I don't even believe those numbers. Anyway, it said people are employed 142 million. And then total retail sales, 249 billion. And then it says this year, unemployment rate is down from that. Vaccination doesn't even matter because you're getting vaccinated against an imaginary thing. People employed 148 million. And then total retail sales, which this number is actually incorrect, mind you. And I left it be, but it was actually 530. What they're doing is they're including like vehicle sales and auto parts sales and all that stuff, or like business to business sales as retail sales, which you can't actually find when you actually pull any of the actual data, which it's actually pretty hard to do. It took me a long time to find it. But when you pull all the data, the government actually separates those numbers. So when you and I know why they did it. You know why? Because in 2021, it was 538 billion, which is a little bit, what's this, 549? So they added everything together. And that number is accurate when you add all of it together. But that's what they did. But I made one versus a year that was comparable, because 2020 was not a comparable year, when you look at things, because the vaccine, the COVID pandemic and the lockdown requirements and all that shit is pretty much over at this point. So you have to look at the actual numbers. In November and I crossed it out and wrote 2019, the unemployment numbers were at 3.6%. Oh, they lose that battle. Vaccinated Americans doesn't matter. People employed in November of 2019, before COVID set in, we had 157.54 million people employed. Oh, that's more than we have now. Which is weird, right? Because we have the fastest job growth we've ever had. Remember that? Total retail sales in 2019 were $535 billion. And I had explained the difference. But even if you give that and then you put in inflation and all that stuff, it's about the same. It's 535 to 534. Very interesting, right? But again, the Biden administration doesn't want you to know that. They just want you to talk about, or they want to toot their horns and be like, boo, we're better than everybody, and hope that you don't actually pay attention to the numbers. There was another tweet that I put out this morning that got a little bit of traction because it was important to put out, because a lot of people just don't use their head when it comes to the job numbers. Biden continued. He gave a press conference this morning where he just straight up lied to the American people. He said today we had 2.4 million unemployment job claims. And he's like, faster than anybody's ever been fast. Oh, we have an unemployment number of 4.9. We even heard Jen Psaki say that today. 4.2. We dropped 2 points as fast as anybody. It's the first time it's ever been done, blah, blah, blah. Not true. Not true. But again, it doesn't even matter because the only thing that matters here, in November of 2019, we had 1.9 million continuing claims. That means in November of 2019, we had people that were already on unemployment that filed new or continuing claims for unemployment. 1.9 million claims. Today, we have 2.4 million. He keeps talking about how great we're doing, but the numbers don't actually add up if you pay attention to these numbers. They just don't. I mean, I would love for them to, actually make sense. Why do you think the stock market ended? What did it end? 300 points down again after big losses all week long? Well, it is what it is, right? In total, 509 million people were unemployed in 2019. Well, guess what? We're building back so great that 6.9 million people are unemployed now. That's how great we're building back. 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago now, we were in a way better scenario than we are now. But they don't want you to say that. And that's why they keep comparing last year, because you're not comparing apples to apples because half of the country isn't locked down. And maybe that's the plan. Maybe he realizes that the Americans are kind of trying to figure out, or we're already figuring it out. A lot of the economists today, when the new November jobs report came out, they're all scratching their heads saying, how the hell do we only add 220,000 jobs? When the estimate was for 550,000, but yet the unemployment numbers went down. That doesn't make any sense because that means we actually lost more jobs, but yet you're saying we gained them. It doesn't make any sense. They literally, and they're scratching their heads and they all wrote about it. And then all of a sudden Twitter, I don't know what happened. They stopped getting the traction and all these new ones. Oh yeah, they missed it, but they missed the projection by less than half, or by more than half. And you know what normally happens when you miss a projection that big by half? You're fucking done. The market tanks, everybody tanks, but everyone's being played. People have to just pay attention. Everyone's being played here. They're lying to everybody, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows that, but it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter anymore because what can we do? The only thing we can all do is kind of just sit back and be like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to protect my family. I'm not going to mess around with any of this garbage. Like, sure, you want to lock down your shit? Well, I'm not complying. You want to force the vaccination? Well, that's your choice. But again, I believe in my choice, and my choice is whatever it is. And that's the only way people are ever going to do it. If your kid is being taught some racist shit at school under the guise that it's anti-racist, if you allow your kid to go to that school and continue to do that, and your kid goes to school, they're teaching it, and you feel like you have no other option. You always have an option. It's called homeschool, and do it. Stand up for yourself. That's what America needs to do, is just wake up. And then stand up for yourself, your neighbor and your friends and your family. Don't just get steamrolled over. Don't. You know how many people were wearing masks today at this Christmas parade? Very few. None of the cops were. I was standing next to one lady that was wearing a mask, but I think she may have had some medical issue with her. Nobody else was wearing masks. Anyway, I walked around town, and it's not to criticize it because I don't judge people for wearing a mask. Hell, I went into a restaurant with my wife and kids. My wife had the kids wearing a mask for some reason. I don't know. I told them all to take it off for a while. My wife kept hers on because she's liberal. So she kept it on just for a few minutes. But I'm thinking to myself, and I'm like, but part of me was like, I wonder what people think, because here's a guy that's not wearing a mask, and then his whole family's wearing a mask. Again, it's their choice. My kids, I give them the choice. If they want to wear the mask, they wear the mask. If they don't want to wear the mask, they don't wear the mask. Because it's a choice. It's a choice. Both of my kids have asthma. Wearing a mask is not healthy for them. They have to wear a mask to school. I gave them the option. I said, do you want to wear a mask and go to school and see friends, or do you want to come home and be at home and we'll figure it out? And I know a lot of the viewers were like, how could you do that? How could you do that? I gave my kids the choice. I was prepared to suck it up and teach them and become a teacher myself and teach them every day. That was my choice. Because I gave my kids the choice to make their own determination of what they wanted to do. But I can tell you honestly, the way they were acting at this fucking parade today, there's a very good chance that next year they're both going to that damn military academy. I'm not joking. These kids were out of control. I even turned to my wife and I'm like, holy shit, are they like this all the time? And she goes, yeah. Why do you think I fall asleep at 7? And I apologized again for getting in a fight with her because these kids are fucking nuts. Okay? The other one is like constantly trying to parent the young one. The young one's like, ah! like just running around all the time. But and we got a good military academy right in this town, and it's a house payment, but I'm seriously thinking about it. My older boy doesn't want to go, but they marched in this parade too, and literally they're marching every step on point. They're in fancy uniforms, they're drumming, and they got guns. And I'm like, bro, isn't that cool? And he's like, no. And I'm like, come on, seriously, look how they're marching. And he's like, no, Dad. And I'm like, look. And he's like, no. And I'm like, look. And I'm like, they have a really good football team. My son wants to go to Notre Dame because of his peepaw, which is my wife's father. He wants to go to Notre Dame because that's a favorite school. And so what they do is they watch the football games together, and then even though one's in Jersey and one's here, and they text each other throughout the entire football game. So he's set that he wants to go to Notre Dame. So I'm like, why don't you go to the military academy? It's like an Ivy League military academy, and then you can go there. And he's like, well, it's really expensive. I said, I'll pay for it, man. I'll go get another job. I'll do whatever. I'll pay for it if you want to go to a military academy. But he doesn't want to go to a military academy. And it would be the day program because I couldn't deal with not having them at home every night. But yeah. But yeah, whatever. Someone said, you have kids, Steve? They sound normal to me. I don't know. Those kids were they were nuts, man. Like the little guy is out of control. Out of control. Even my wife is like, she's like, Steve, you're making a scene. I'm like, no, you know what? You're making a scene because you're letting me down here, babe. You're letting me down because these kids are running around and you're letting them do it. And she's like, what do you want me to do? Like, I tell them no, they don't listen. I said, okay, call them over. And I'm like, yo, Liam, you're grounded this week. And he goes, no, I'm not. I'm like, oh. He's like, I will play video games. And I'm like, the fuck you will. When I come home, I got this new maul to split wood. And on the back, it's got like a sledgehammer. Yeah, it's going to be fun smashing up that. I'll use that and I'll record it and shoot up the Xbox. Yeah, keep it up, boys. Someone that beat them. No, we don't do spankings in my house. We never will. So kids have never been spanked. I take that back. My son once, he bit me here, and when I pulled my hand up, he was like a pit bull attached to my hand, so he got a little smack in the butt. And then when my wife was pregnant with my second son, he punched her right in the stomach, and so he got another smack in the butt, just a single smack. And I cried after because I felt awful. Like one of the few times that I cried as an adult, because that time when he did that, I did it out of anger. When he did it on my hand, I was trying to get him. He's like a pit bull. I was trying to get him to release my hand. But yeah, when I smacked his butt that time, he punched my pregnant wife, and he punched her hard, because he was like a 4 or 5 year old toddler that wasn't getting his way, and he's like, yeah. But he hit her right square in the belly. She was crying. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I was freaked out. But yeah, we don't spank our kids in our house at all. And we never will. And they figured it out too, because we can't even threaten them with it anymore. Because the last time I threatened like my older boy with it, and I'm like, you're going to get a spank? And he goes, no, I'm not. And I'm like, fuck. Like, he figured it out. It worked for a while. Like, he used to get so scared. But I'm a loud, overbearing guy. So if I get real quick to him, it usually gets him. Oh, all bets are off, though. The second they turn 18, boom, these come out. Second they turn 18. Someone said, spare the rod, spoil the child. No, because I firmly believe if you spank your kid, you're less than me. You know what I mean? It doesn't take a lot to do it. It means you're not doing a good job as a parent. Yeah, and I know a lot of my fans right now are going to be like, what the fuck? He's talking to me. Yep, 100%. If you spank your kid, you're not doing a good job as a parent. My belief. Okay? And you may not like that. I don't care. That is my belief. If you spank your kids, you're not doing. I don't have to spank my kids. And I don't think anybody should. And you know what? I was spanked as a kid, and it escalated up all the time. And I was punched, I was kicked, and all that shit as a kid. And there's no way in hell that that's acceptable to me at all. You know what I mean? That's my belief, and it may be wrong, it may be flawed, but that's why I feel the way I do. And if I offended anybody by saying that, and feel free to go F off. Watch CNN. This isn't McDonald's. I don't say what you want, or you can't have it your way. Something like that. And I dropped like 10 users. 10 people were like, oh, he said I'm less than. It is what it is. But, and there is, there is a difference of spankings and whooped and all that stuff. Again, we're not going to have that conversation anymore. You spank your kid in front of me, see what happens. I don't give a shit if I know your kid or not. If I see a grown-ass man or grown-ass woman giving their kid a spanking in public, guess what? I'm going to give you a spanking. And I'm going to mop the floor of you. And I'll gladly go to jail with that. Promise you, I would gladly go. And you know what? People would be clapping on the way. Yep, there's not a fucking chance in hell I'll ever watch that. I attacked a guy once for smacking a chick in front of me for no fucking reason. He smacked her, and you know what ended up happening? The girl ended up punching me too after I beat up her boyfriend. And I almost got in trouble for that one, except I knew people. But yeah, I just, there's certain things in my life. You smack a dog, you smack a kid, you smack a woman. Yeah, I'm going to destroy you. Or you break into my car. I'm going to destroy you. That's just who I am. And maybe it's not right, but that's just who I am. I guess one of the other stories, I got to bring some sad news today. Officials are reporting that an officer was shot while responding to a disturbance near a Texas grocery store Friday afternoon, has died from his injuries. The suspect was also shot and remains in critical condition. Officials say around 1:40 p.m., an officer responded to a disturbance call near an Albertson store at 1500 South Beltline Road near East Cartwright Road, 1 mile east of Interstate 65. Now, I don't know how you say this town name, Mesquite, Texas, I think is what it is. Officials say as the officer was investigating at the scene, the officer and a male suspect were both struck by gunfire. Police say the officer and suspect were transported to a local hospital, both in critical condition. Now we know that the police officer has passed away from those wounds. This is not the first police officer that's been shot this week. This is probably the fifth or sixth police officer, I believe, that's been shot this week. There's been a lot of it, a lot of the shootings. And I don't know. You know how you could stop some of this violence towards police? And granted, it's not going to work for a long time, but eventually it would, by penalizing parents for when their kids do something wrong. Because then they're not going to grow up to be shitheads. That's my belief. And it could be wrong, but I think you guys know where I'm going with that, right? I think you know. Also, today we have, what's today? The 3rd. We have 11 more days of our Patriot boxes. This month we're doing them different. You can go to puretruthclothing.com, but this month the Patriot boxes are going to consist of either your choice of a Patriot box, which is all American stuff. There's going to be, I think I'm going to do jams. Are you guys cool with that for next month? There's a veteran company here in town that makes jams, and I can get them at a pretty good price, and they'll give me a little flyer to go with it so you guys could find out about that company and order directly. And they actually donate a huge portion of their proceeds to charity as well, and it explains it all on the card. It's the same company that made the honey, but I think that's what I'm going to do. The jams that will go, and I don't know what kind, but they'll have all that. They'll have there's going to be a book in them because I'm going to kind of switch it up, and not a coloring book, like an actual book. Probably doesn't have pictures in it, but it's going to be written by a veteran or a patriot. And then all the clothes and stickers and patches and shit that we normally do. The boxes are going to be bigger than they typically are, and they're going to be a lot more like when you open it up, you're going to be, oh shit, that's cute, or that's nice. I have a lot of plans for it. So we're going to be doing that. But we also will have a Back to Blue box, and you can find this. If you go to Pure Truth Clothing right now, you'll see it. Back to Blue box is going to be about the same thing. You may still get jam, or you'll get whatever special product we have, because everything will feature a product from a veteran-owned company. But everything else that's in there is going to be themed Back to Blue. So the Back to Blue hoodies, Back to Blue t-shirts, Back to Blue tank tops or aprons or whatever the hell I put in the boxes, Back to Blue hats, a bunch of different stuff, a book about law enforcement maybe, but all sorts of different patches that are all in that Back to Blue theme. And then we also, for the first time, we have kid boxes. Those are $75 that include shipping, and those are going to be kid-friendly designs. So you may have some Back to Blue stuff, you may have some of this, you may have a teddy bear, hint, hint. You may have a bunch of other stuff stuff, but those will be the kids boxes, and you can choose your size. I think I don't remember what the sizes are, but they're like kid size, up until I think it's at age 11. But yeah, you could choose those boxes. We're doing limited quantities, and it'll stop on the 14th. Because then we got to order all the stuff for them. So just make sure you get your order in as soon as you can, because when they sell out of the sizes, we're not upping it. So if it says it's sold out, sorry, you're shit out of luck, and go from there. The December boxes are gonna all go out. I got everything. My wife said the new Christmas shot glasses were delivered. I realized I didn't get the stickers, so I am just going to give coffee with these boxes as well, and then some patches. So you guys will be happy with these boxes because there's sweatshirts and shirts and all that stuff for the December boxes. I'm still waiting on the challenge coins, the remainder of the challenge coins for the 3X, 4X, 5X boxes that I sent out. I think I have a couple of the November boxes I still have to send out because I don't know why. I just missed like one of them today. A guy sent me and he's like, hey man, didn't get it. What's going on? Can you just check it? And I'm like, I don't know why you didn't get it. So he's getting extra t-shirts and shit because I just fucked up and forgot his box. So someone said, does CBD get you high? No, it doesn't. I wanted to talk about the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing too, because she just put out a video talking about all the death threats and stuff that she gets. And you guys should watch that video, and not for the content. You should watch it. It's on Twitter. If you just go to her page, Marjorie Taylor Greene on Twitter, and find that video. Don't even watch the video because it's the same threats that everybody makes to politicians, but read the comments. Read the comments, because here's the thing. AOC played a video the other day, which is why Marjorie Taylor Greene did it, to be like, everyone gets those threats. We are in Congress, which everybody that covers Congress knows that Congress people get threats every single day. We know that. That's part of being a public official. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be, but it is. But the comments under AOC's thing, or was it AOC or Ilhan Omar? That's who it was, Ilhan Omar, or idiot, the one who married her brother, allegedly. That she made a video the other day, or she was at a press conference. She played some racist scumbag that made a bunch of, he just made a bunch of racist shit comments to her and said she was going to die, all that stuff. Now, and I know that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene made this video, but if you watch the comments that are under the Ilhan Omar's video, and they're all sympathetic, like, oh my God, I can't believe you have to deal with this. These Republicans are awful, evil people. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. OMG, oh my MJ. And then read the comments under Marjorie Taylor Greene's. You deserve this. Republicans. What about this? What about that? You said this one time. It's just a justification for horrible, horrible things. And I'm so tempted to go off the deep end and fully make a database of all these leftist scumbag, soul-sucking losers on Twitter. I'm not even joking, because they would do it just as quick to everybody else. But I would like to just start a phone bank, start a nonprofit, and we just publicly call these people. Where it's like, oh, you made a comment where you said you would hope this conservative would die. So we would like to call your employer and find out what he thinks about that. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. You can't do it. It's probably illegal, but it shouldn't be. And maybe it's not. I don't know. But it's people are just so fucking evil on both sides, Republican and Democrat. They are just so freaking evil. The comments that people make, and let's be honest, I take that back. They're not Republican. They're not Democrat. They are evil. They want the person who left the message for Omar. They're not a Republican. They're not a Trump supporter. They are either mentally challenged or they are Democrat trying to pose as a Republican, because they probably are. It's probably the brother that she allegedly married that left that phone call. You don't know. But the problem is that it's a one-sided thing where people say, it's okay to do it to Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz or Gomer or any of these other people who get death threats all the time. McConnell, even, this scumbag, mumbling Mitch McConnell. People think it's acceptable to do it to the Republicans because, this is what they vote for. They were voting to shut down mandates. They were voting to this. They were voting to that. And they don't think it's acceptable to do it to anybody else. My opinion is it's not acceptable to do it to anyone, ever. It doesn't matter. It's not acceptable to call someone to give a death threat unless you want people to show up the door, you open it, and they shoot you in the mouth. because because that's really the Wild Wild West. You know what used to happen when you threatened someone's family? You died. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't threaten someone's family back then. You couldn't be like, oh, one day I'm going to come and I'm going to kill you. You can't do that back then. But for some reason now it's perfectly acceptable. And if you're doing it to Republicans, it doesn't make any sense. It's very, very, it's very confusing. Oh, so I guess people are still talking about the fact of the smacking people in the butt and all that stuff. But I think we clarified what spanking and all that stuff. It's not, and we don't need to have a big diatribe about it in the chat. And you'll probably never hear me talk about it because I tend not to talk about stuff like that. But I still stick by what I said. You're not doing a good job if you have to spank your kid to parent them. Doesn't even matter. That's the coward's way of parenting. Yeah, I said it. Come see me. Come see me. Fuck. Seriously, people shouldn't be arguing that because you will fucking lose. I can promise you that. But someone said you got an ass beating of a kid and you came out okay. I got an ass beating of a kid too. You know what? And for years and years, I beat the shit out of people for fun. Okay, so no. Coming out of spankings it's not healthy. So let's fucking move on. Don't want to do it anymore. But yeah, I think I didn't really have anything else to talk about. I knew I was going to kind of carry over for those really 2 or 3 big stories that I talked about today. And it was a pretty good show, man. That was over an hour. Wasn't it? I think it was pretty over an hour. I didn't put out yesterday's show because I didn't edit it yet. So I will try to make sure I do these tomorrow. Tomorrow I am going to be doing a bunch. My wife is actually going to help me do it. We are going to make this a full-on storefront. And it's going to be Pure Truth Coffee, Pure Truth Clothing. But I think I'm just going to call it the American Store. And it's just going to be stuff for people that are proud of this country. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. We'll feature veteran companies. We'll feature my products. We'll feature other products. I'll have a wall of all of our shirts. So we'll sell a bunch of shirts. If you like the show, you'll be able to come in. You're going to have to sign a waiver because you pissed me off. There's likely I may be using that on you. I'm going to have a note that says, like, listen, if you come in, you're signing this waiver that I get to shoot you. I'm just kidding. But and then I also bought a commercial coffee grinder today, and a coffee pot. So our coffee trailer is coming together. But they wanted $300 for a used stainless steel kitchen table. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? It's used. I could buy a new one for $300. What are you talking about? So when I go and pick up the coffee pot and all that stuff, because a business is going out of business here because her husband died and she can't run the business anymore. So she had one there. And I said, I'll come back and I'll help her because she's like, whatever I sell, or whatever I don't sell, I have to move. And I was like, I feel bad. So how about I come back on the 23rd? I'll let you use the coffee maker and all that stuff until then because she sells coffee still. And I said, I'll come back on the 23rd and I'll help you move whatever. I got a truck. I'm a big ass dude. I can help carry anything. I've got a trailer as well. And she's like, oh, that's so nice. And I'm like, I know. And then you'll give me a huge discount on all the displays that I want. I didn't say that, but that's what I'm thinking. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, she's like, she had this nice, because I can't build shit. I'm not good at it. I'll be honest. I can vision it and I can hammer shit, but I'm not a carpenter. And what I want is a 24-foot, 3-foot high, and maybe 18 inches wide shelf system with 3 shelves inside. But I want it all nice, and stained kind of darkish, so it works with the front because then I'll have all the shirts in there. You know what I'm saying? So I'll have double. So this is my vision. You want to hear my vision, and then I'll end it. It's going to be hard. So you guys got what you got to do is close your eyes, listen to the. You know what I'm saying? See, and again, it doesn't even matter. You don't need to do that. What I want to do is just make a long for the TV or for the t-shirts in the front. So make a 3-foot long, like I said, 3 foot tall, 18 inches deep with 3 shelves, or 2 inside, and then you use the top one too. So 2 shelves inside plus the top one, and 20 foot long. So I guess I have 3 sections that are 8 foot each, and just a nice one. I know I can't do it. My wife is like, I can do it. I'm like, the fuck you can. But if I do it, I could buy it, I could frame it, I could do all this stuff. I'll ruin it. That's just how I do it. And plus my floor is not really level. So, the landlord is like, oh, we'll go 50-50 if you want to redo the floors in there. And I'm like, I'll suck it up with a shitty carpet, until it generates some revenue. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out how to do it. I may just buy those cubes, even though they don't look as good. I may just buy those cubes and build that. Someone said YouTube videos. Yeah, I could do it. I already have all the tools. You know what it is? It's lazy. That's truly what it is. Because it would be what? They don't sell 2x... What's the biggest board they sell? Is it 2x14 or 2x16? Do they even do a 2x16? Fuck, now you're going to make me go and build this myself because I talk shit on myself. Do they sell 2x16s? No. 2x8 times 16. Someone said you could buy one. Where? At Lowe's? Or is it 2x12 is the largest one? 2x12. See, but that would be I guess I could do 2x10s. I could do 2x10s, and then so that would be 20 inches deep. I don't really want to fucking do it. Man, they're still fucking expensive though. A 2x10 by 8 foot, it's $14. Never mind. So what kind of wood here's a question, because I don't know this. What kind of wood do you use if you're building stuff inside? So, like, you wouldn't, and that you have to stain and stuff. Like, there was someone that said you're a 40-year contractor, 30-year carpenter. What kind of wood would you use if you were going to do that, based on what I've already described? Because I know I'm going to have to stain it and all that stuff. What kind of wood would you use to do it? Oak, someone said. Boo. Oak, all you guys are saying. Well, someone else said pine, but pine is like studs. Everyone is saying oak pretty much. Plywood. Yeah, just use plywood. Untreated lumber, yeah. Everyone's saying oak or pine. Which one? Oak is too heavy. 1x10 oak. Pine is gross. 2x4s and plywood. No, it's got to look good. I don't really care about the money. I want to make sure it looks good. Is fir good? Fir? How about fir? Do they even... So let's see. 2x10 oak. Let's see if they even have that at Lowe's. They do not. I don't know what the fuck that is. Do they have 2x10s? 2x10 oak. If I just Google it. How do you tell if it's oak? It doesn't. None of the shit says oak on it. How do you know if it says oak? White oak lumber, is that it? That's Baird Brothers. Oh, I got to go to actual lumberyard for the shit. $14 a foot. Fuck all you. You're playing a trick on me. You're playing that trick on me. $14 a foot? Are you out of your freaking mind? You're out of your mind. $14 a foot, that would be what? 20? No, that would be stupid expensive. Are you kidding? Let's do the math real quick. Calculator. $14 a foot. That's a ripoff. Holy shit. I'm going to just go cut down an oak tree. Fucking do that myself with a chainsaw. So what? It's actually $14.13. So you times that by what? 24. And then you multiply that, so you would have two boards, and let's say you do plywood for the backing, so that's times 6. $2,035 just for those woods, not including any of the studs. You are nuts. All you guys who said oak, you guys are crazy. You're the reason why homes cost so much to build. Unbelievable. Unfriggin' believable. All right, so what other wood can I use then? 2x, what is it? 2x, so I said 2x10. Now, can I get like a pine that's not like a stud, like a nicer pine, but that's not like a decking board? Southern yellow pine lumber. That's cheap, so it's probably not good. So, Home Depot's cheaper than those. So this Southern pine yellow 2x10. It's not expensive. Man, I could do this. I could have this shit all built up by freaking tomorrow. I already got the drill. I got the screws. Man, so what would I need? I'd need 1, 2, if it's 8, so I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, what the fuck? Can I do math? So I need 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 18. So I need 18 of these. That's like 80, 90 bucks. $120 roughly. I need a couple of 2x4s, right? For the shelves. Oh, fuck. It's going to be too much. I'd have to think about how to build this shit, and I'd have to edge out these boards. You know what I mean? So they'd fit around the 2x4s as they go in the middle. That's too much work. Someone said you are a town literally named for an inventory of wood. No, I'm not. They just named it the town. I'll figure it out. Someone said build with untreated grade 2 white pine, then do detail trim and oak. Gotcha. Can't you see my post? Poplar. Send me money and I'll come. Someone else is saying I need a spanking now. That's what a router is for. Yeah, but then I'd have to go buy one. I don't want to do all that. I'm not going to be woodworking. Delta 8 is the new something. Who cares? Hire someone to build it. I thought about that too. It'd be a lot easier, right? Just be like, place a Craigslist ad or a thumbtack or whatever it is. There's probably people here that could use the work. Maybe that's what I'll do. I build tables, but see, and here's the thing, because I wanted to get a table for when I do the standing show in front of the green screen. But these little bar tables cost like $400. I'm like, I could literally make something with 2x4s and shit for less than that. So maybe I should buy all this stuff and start doing all this stuff myself and get into woodworking. I got a nice room right there that I don't do anything with. Getting woodworking. Yeah, right. With all my time. Someone said, do I have a table saw? I do not. I have a circular saw. I'll figure it out. But all right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I'll be on TikTok for about a half an hour, see what kind of interviews we can get into. I'm going to take 2 or 3 minutes before I jump on TikTok because I have to go to the bathroom. Someone said Wayfair is much cheaper. Oh, maybe. I should check that. Someone else has said IKEA. No. And anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. You're not going to hear from me this weekend unless we have some breaking news. Hopefully we don't have any breaking news. I appreciate all you guys for being here. Really do. We will see you on Monday morning for something. And I'll probably go live this weekend. I just hope not. But all right, we'll see you later. Bye. Thank you for watching. Adios.
You've been listening to Wake Up America with Stephen Oatley. Unapologetically American and unapologetically honest. Join us each night at 8 p.m. for more daily headlines, politics, and social issues, covering the headlines that mainstream media ignores. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review the show. See more on the website at citizenstringer.com. And we'll see you tomorrow on Wake Up America.